Hi, friends. I am heading out to rehearsal. I thought I would do my video post before today because I had some incredible morning sessions with two just amazing people who are kind of leading me as well as a teacher into, what I feel like my next area of growth is, which is just becoming more and more sensitive to how do you actually help someone, provided that they are open and willing to kind of sit with whatever comes up, which is sort of step one. How do you help? How can you be of service to that? And how can you, essentially what I am discovering, it's sort of a refining of my understanding, I guess, but it feels like a discovery every time, is that it's kind of about sensitivity, and there's a relationship that I've noticed as I was speaking about last night with meditation. If meditation is the foundation, if meditation is the sort of the ground, the ocean, I've heard teachers call it the ground of being. It's the ground of being because it's not being. It doesn't exist. It's the space of beingness, the non-space, non-time ground of time and space. Connecting with that dimension of ourselves, which is a real dimension. It may sound esoteric to talk about it, but that's only because we're using limited terms to try and describe something infinite. But when we go there, that's kind of like the fuel or the foundation that allows me, I'm just going to speak for myself. I know this is universal, but it allows me to then be even more sensitive, because sometimes what can come up is as we increase our sensitivity, it sort of overwhelms our system. If we increase our sensitivity, but we're still kind of at the same level of consciousness, the same level of awareness or objectivity or capacity or space, capacity for space around our experience, then very quickly it starts, that gap closes, and all of a sudden it's like the sensitivity sort of takes over, and we're receiving so much, we're getting pushed around, kicked around by it, and I've actually heard many meditation teachers encourage students to slow down, don't try and become like a cosmic empath overnight. It won't work, and it won't feel good if you could do it. I've heard stories of people becoming overwhelmed by, like, all of a sudden in meditation some chakra opens or something, and it's like they're catatonic for a month because they can't handle the influx of the energy. Now, I have not had that experience, but it speaks to me to this idea that, sensitivity is ultimately kind of something, even sensitivity is something that we're working with dosage, right? There's a certain amount we can handle. There's what we can handle now, and there's our next level. You wouldn't put someone under a 400-pound bench press if they were used to lifting 250. You wouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense, right? So, and that's the same kind of thing here. It's just it's a very different dimension, and it has obviously totally different parameters, but it's an analogy that comes to mind, I suppose, as I start to go into this. And again, coming back to the project that I'm heading into, what often happens, this also came up in my conversation this morning, was what often happens at this point in the process. I blast through the first week and a half or so. It was really music heavy. I'm under the gun. I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the room. Then we get a lull, and the actors start building their characters. They start doing scenes, running their songs, connecting to the script, connecting to each other, and we start building the emotional framework of the play. And so that now is the time when emotion and a kind of, there can be an emotional kick. There can be a shift that happens where the emphasis in terms of what I'm carrying goes from a very kind of tangible, linear, concrete, and very almost quantifiable, even though it's kind of unquantifiable. It's more quantifiable. It's more predictable what I will face in the room each day as I'm strictly running the sort of musical foundation. But now we get into the part where who knows what could happen, because we're dealing with individual actors and characters and an emotional through line that we're discovering, especially with a new play like this. It's being built. Like, what we're creating is being built in the room by these actors. So I'm trying to bring myself into an awareness of, okay, well, I just happened to look up and look at the poster on the wall, and it says "into space," and that's literally what I'm trying to do, is come into a space of holding a greater objectivity, a greater sense of whatever comes up here. I may not know, and things could come out of left field, but remaining in that place of understanding that this is about everyone's healing. This is about whatever anyone brings into the room is the right thing for them to bring into the room, and knowing that not only is everyone there wrestling with the things they're wrestling with because it's right for them, but we are together as a collective because it is right for us. We have come together at this time, and there's something that this group of people has decided to process together, to work through together, and ultimately to offer together. Ultimately, that I am a 100% firm believer that that's what the audience ultimately receives, is that gift. Whatever we as a group of people are able to embrace and acknowledge, process, and ideally transcend to some degree, that's the gift that we give the audience. So that's where I'm putting that. I'm more than anything, I'm for myself. I'm tracking. Okay, what is my shift here? Because I entered this process very deliberately, and I've been coming out of a couple of years now of not really having done much of this work because nobody's been doing much of this work. And now I'm re-entering, and I knew I was coming in with a new approach, and it really was affirmed in the first couple days, first week or so of rehearsal. I could really tell, okay, I'm onto something. This approach is really helping. This keeps my focus in a place where no matter what happens, I can remain positive, and I can infuse the space with the vibes that are going to give us joy, and they're going to give us love and give us mutual trust and all of that. So I'm marking for myself as the process goes on, what's my next step there? What's the next level? And I think, as I was saying a little bit last night, I think it's, now that I am more in the background in the room, what am I holding I have a little more space. I can actually observe in more detail. I can watch individuals. I can watch the group. I can watch relationships. I can listen to the director. I can feel dynamics almost more than I can when I'm 100% on every minute of the time and teaching, and I'm kind of like the driving force in the room. I actually have a chance now to step back and use this time not to be more passive, but to simply be engaged in a different way. And just kind of discovering what that is for myself and leaning into what I think will be most helpful. So, and my wife and daughter arrive this evening. Yay! It's going to be amazing. I'm so ready for them to be here. So, thanks for watching, folks. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.